Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So this is a screenshot. Maybe the previous was a screenshot as well. There's also a screenshot. It says the story of tea. And there are three kind of books, they're illustrations, but they look kind of, one says, I can't see. The T equals tasting. E equals teaching, right there. So proper books. Wicked. Okay. Right.
Yes.
T equals teaching. Yes, of course. Okay, so take it away. Let's celebrate, the story of tea. This is great.
Well, it was the story of Miss Liz going through Alice in Wonderland, going through hoops and slides and twists and turns. So the T is teaching from my past, but I also shared my story of abuse and how us as survivors of abuse, we don't need to stay victimized for life. We can change it. We can write books. And that's what I did, is I shared my story. But I also wanted to educate people with words, because words teach. We can teach kids by saying, what is your T? When I say, what is your T? I'm looking for a word that starts with the TEA. So teaching, education, awareness, transformation, empowerment, action, trauma, example, attitude. Let's start using words to describe. But these are different teas. This is how we serve our teas. Some days we put sugar in our tea. Some days we put milk. But now we put words. And we use words that we can actually use in schools and services and all of that to transform them to speak. Some children will be afraid to speak because of trauma. And they can use that word and say, terrified. Okay, you're terrified of what? What happened? You know what I mean? So we're not using big sentences. We're using one word. Okay, this kid is giving me terrified. What is this kid afraid of? What is this adult afraid of? Because it's for all ages. My T is from the age of 15 to the age of 91, or 99. So
wait, so that's that. Okay, so only because we're meeting and I'm just wrapping my head around who you are and how you spend your time, because that's the essence of my podcast, is how do you make every second count? And I love the fact that behind you is this sharing is healing, this little thing that says sharing is healing. And sure enough, as humans, as people, how we exchange and learn from one another is through the medium of words, right? So it's almost like a therapeutic education impulse. So how did that happen?
It happened when I was 4 years old. That was also the year that I lost my innocence as a child. But my great-grandmother, who's back there on that Sharing is Healing, my Oma from Germany, she gave me a cup of tea. And she gave me these words that I didn't understand because I was a little kid. She said, I want you to sit, reflect, recharge, and release. And I was like, I don't know what the heck she means, But at that time, she was actually serving me a tea of life. And she kept telling me, Liz, your tea. Liz, your tea. And I was like, okay. Well, she called me Miss Liz. That's where Miss Liz comes from my Oma, because she always called me Miss Liz. And as I got older, she kept saying, Miss Liz, your tea. And I was like, I don't know what she means by tea. Does she want a cup of tea? But then I realized when I went through all of my stuff, I was like, okay, Oma's telling me to serve tea to everybody. What she served me at 4. But at 4, I didn't know what the heck those words meant. And that's what we do, right? Is we sit, we recharge, we reflect, and we release in all of our life stories. No matter who you are, right? You have to do those things. We all reflect on our lives. We could have made better choices, married somebody better, dated somebody better, had 1 kid instead of 10 kids. Those things that we reflect on and charge on. But I just now I realize that my Oma is always saying, Liz, get the stories out, get the teas out, get awareness out there, and use it by being friendly, by being what Oma was to you at 4. Oma gave you a cup of tea, so give them a cup of tea, and that's where it came from.
So, my part of my background is also writing and communication, and so I have a real attention and sensitivity to language, right? So how people speak, how people write, what weaves into their speech. I'm always aware of, okay, what's kind of going on in the background there. So you are a writer, and for some people, the therapy of writing is about kind of putting down into concrete form the kind of the swirl of ideas. So, what is the role of story? Story, not only not a story, but just the role of story as an idea of the narrative. How does that scratch an itch or solve a problem or do something for you? Because in effect, when you're sitting near somebody and you're saying, okay, describe to me your tea, is you're telling them, tell me a story about what's at the core of who you are.
Well, the core for me is the flavor. What flavor am I going to get today? What flavor am I going to serve today? What mood am I going to wake up with, right? Because it depends on our attitude. We have to be the example. So we take the T, we move it backwards. We start taking the A-E-T, and we just go backwards. We reverse it. And it's life. Life is balance, right? The yin and yang. We need the good and the bad. And in order to write, to release, you need to have those bad emotions inside. We all have them. We all have things that frustrate us and by writing, we're just spilling. That's where we're spilling tea. We're spilling the story. And sometimes just writing and just putting it out there. Don't fix it. Don't edit it. Don't stop being so perfection. We all have scars. We all have bumps and roadblocks that have stopped us from doing something, or not at this time. We'll do it next year instead of this year. And that's all I do is I just release. I just write. And sometimes what I write doesn't make sense. And I'll have people say, Miss Liz, oh my God, you confuse me. I'm all over. I'm like, good. Because confusion is good, because that means that you've actually taken the time to say, I'm trying to figure this out, but I can't.
I love that. So one of the things that I have said to people now and then, most of my life, is I reserve the right to be contradictory. I reserve the right to not make sense. And in a way, that impulse that you're saying is like, it doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to be, it might be confusing. It's good to be in that sense of confusion. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But that to me sounds quite familiar, because it's this idea of like, there's this huge, massive complexity that is reality. And as our brains want to put in a box and contain it, and you're like, well, no, live with the uncertainty and the confusion. Yeah, imagine there was a question in there. How would you answer that?
Right? I don't know, dot to dot. I used to like those growing up, and that's how I kind of look at my life, right? Is, I got this person today, I got this person tomorrow. How did they nice. I get over there? Like, how do I connect the dots? So like when I do my podcast, Ram, the 3 guests are booked at different times, but every week they seem to align. They seem to connect. Oh, and I'm like, how does this happen? Yeah, I do 3 shows on Thursday. Monday, I do it in the morning, the afternoon, and evening. And
oh, wow.
They all align. Like this year is my biggest year. My first year I started off, it was more just for my mental health. I just wanted people to talk to like everybody else when we all got locked up. And then I was like, whoa. I got something here. I'm a peace ambassador. I'm working with 60 other different countries. Hey, let's go global. Let's start having global tea. Let's start, what's happening in your country? What's happening in your country? How do you serve tea? How do you make tea? And my God, there's so many different ways of making tea. I'm like, what? Really? You guys do that? Like, people put butter in their tea, and I'm like, what? Really?
Okay.
I love butter, but
you're confusing me, because now you're talking about real tea, whereas I was thinking about teaching.
Right? There's the confusion.
Well done. Well played, young Jedi. Well played.
You asked me how I would answer it. I brought more confusion.
I love it. More confusion. Shall we go on to the next photo?
Sure, go ahead.
This is great. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.